Danganronpa Togami, Volume 3, Chapter 14. I don't want to be like Cinderella. Part 1. The City of 100 Spires. The city with fingers of rain. The hometown of medieval rock. The spells carved on the forehead of golems. The story of the Headless Templar. The legend of the sword hidden at the pier. The sound of the military boots that once stepped on the cobblestone. Kafka's lifetime. The aftertaste of the Baroque dream. Pravada Vitezi. My Eye of the Typhoon. All now at the centre of the world. Prague. I am back. Part 2. Shinobu goes back to Prague. There are many UN soldiers. They are patrolling every corner of the city. Compared to them, the number of citizens who walk outside is very small. Shinobu wants to break through the soldiers to save Byakuya, but without Borgs it would be impossible. There are only a few cars, so she thinks that she would draw too much attention with the old Skoda. She decides to leave the car and hide somewhere. It shouldn't be hard, since the city is basically a big maze. She walks on the stone road while paying attention to not being spotted by the soldiers. Shinobu wishes she could go back to the time when she wasn't worrying about her existence collapsing in on itself, when the concept of I hadn't died. Immersed in the sweet memories of the never-ending, a poster flying with the wind lands at her feet reading, Emergency Declaration. Number 1. Byakuya Togami and his accomplices have breached containment at our convoy. Number 2. Assisting in the arrest of Byakuya Togami and his accomplices will grant bonus awards. If you hide or assist Byakuya Togami, or if you don't report spotting Byakuya Togami, you will be severely punished. Number 3. It is forbidden to harm or kill Byakuya Togami and his accomplices. Number 4. Now that Prague has declared a strict martial law, state of emergency, the specific details are as follows. A. It is forbidden to go out at night before the situation subsides. No exceptions. B. Restaurants, bars, cinemas, theatres, and other recreational facilities are closed without exception. C. Those who violate the ban at night and do not immediately identify themselves will be arrested on the spot. D. Other regulations will be posted through posters, broadcasts, and other channels. Orvan Elevator, Captain of the World Health Organization Infectious Disease Control and Prevention Unit. Looking around, Shinobu sees that several posters have been hung all over the city. She wonders why the WHO want to keep Prague under lock and key. Was it because it was the origin of everything that has happened so far? Or was it because they know Byakuya is somewhere within the city? She couldn't say at this point, so she decided to move forward. She arrives at the Strahov Monastery, known for containing pieces like the Dodo specimen located near the Hunger Wall. Shinobu theorizes if she can pass through the courtyard of the monastery, she'll be able to reach her destination, and Byakuya. However, the problem was that it would probably be heavily guarded. Since she lacks an invisibility cloak, or any sneakiness, for that matter, she feels as though she's going to have to win by using her wisdom alone. She starts thinking, but realizes her ideas aren't going to necessarily pan out in her favour. Call the police? Working with the WHO? Get a disguise? Shops are closed, and the few people out here would make dressing up a waste of time. Not to mention all potential allies she could have had are gone now. Hiroyuki Ketoin? Dead. Pennyworth and the Needle Force? Not equipped enough to handle this. The 78th class who came to Prague, Sakura, Celeste and Hifumi? No word on them after she escaped arrest. It was up to her and her alone. In the gradual expansion of despair, the observations that tend to be hopeful will bring death. It's so pointless. How utterly despairing. However, with the knowledge of war movies and video games at her disposal, Shinobu continues onwards, crawling and hiding behind things like flower beds, even thinking of watching out for security cameras, even though there didn't seem to be any around. She notes at that point that losing Borg, she has also may have lost the grasp of her character at that point. As a consequence of her everything is a battlefield mentality, this results in getting herself stuck hiding behind a flower bed and unwilling to pop out unless she finds a good opportunity to do so. At this time, in the silent city of Prague, the sound of an engine suddenly roared. I decided to believe my instincts and rushed out of the flower bed and quickly passed through the courtyard. I hid in the bush next to me and observed the road outside the courtyard. A jeep turned over the road along the Vitava River and drove towards me. The United Nations soldiers in the jeep saluted. Judging by that, whoever is in that car should be someone in a high position. The moment the jeep passed by the bush, I saw someone I was very familiar with in the car. Kazuya. And Suzuhiko. My mind was in chaos as I was watching the jeep disappear out of my vision. Under the protection of the UN soldiers, my brothers are sitting side by side in the city of Prague. The two of them always had their own differing opinions on me. It was hard to imagine that these two people would shake hands and talk, and it was impossible for Suzuhiko to lose to Kazuya. He must have come to an agreement with Kazuya. That is to say, an agreement for Kazuya to recruit Suzuhiko. He held off on his own self-esteem in order to find me and Byakuya Togami. For the object that he was once so hostile and did not hide his desires for challenge, he now shook his tail. While feeling guilty about this and Kazuya, I also learned a truth from it. In order to achieve the goal, I can't take it now. The means of choice. The jeep disappeared and the United Nations soldiers stopped saluting and resumed patrolling. I turned back to the garden, went the other way out, and rushed into the alley. I once again chose to believe in my own consciousness, ran for a while, and finally found the jeep parked in the corner of the alley. Since I returned to Prague, I have only seen one jeep just now. So I think this is the same one that they were sitting in. There was no one in the car. I was going to hide in the car before they both came back, but the jeep was too narrow, and there was no place for me to hide. At this time, my ears caught unsuspecting footsteps. I think that Prague's roads were made from cobblestone. Followed the footsteps and found the back of the person I was looking for. I did not hesitate to say, "Wait!" When he turned around, his expression was a little surprised, and it seemed that he was not surprised by me, but that I actually appeared on my own. Suzuhiko concealed that rare expression with a smile, and still made unsuspecting footsteps approaching me.
"No use, Shinobu. Is anyone else going to come out from playing hide and seek halfway through hiding like that?"
snarked Suzuhiko. "I don't want to hide anymore."
"Well, it looks like it. Then what's the matter?"
"Let me say something first."
"What?"
"Be my companion." Part 3. After Shinobu asks Suzuhiko to help her, he leads her to a house full of UN soldiers. After killing all of them, they walk up the stairs leading to the second floor and enter what looks like a child's room, complete with children's books. Suzuhiko takes out something that resembles a chocolate bar and starts chewing on it. She asks him why he's helping Kazuya.
"Oh, we reconciled. In order to prove that we reconciled, we just played Uno together. But it seems to have different rules depending on where you play it. When Kazuya played all the 4+ cards at once, I really didn't know what to say."
Truthfully?
"It's true. We really played Uno together, you know? Hey, did you like my funny joke?"
Shinobu finds it difficult to believe what he is saying, but that's not what is bothering her at the moment. She asks whether he reconciled with Kazuya because Kazuya realised that he couldn't win against the hitman. The best option would be able to join forces. Suzuhiko says that Kazuya simply told him, "We're good," and decided to just leave it at that, noting that he doesn't care what Kazuya thinks, and that he is only interested in what can be seen on the outside. She asks Suzuhiko to help her save Byakuya. Of course, this being Suzuhiko, he wants to love Shinobu. She tries to tell him that she could provide other options, but Suzuhiko starts to sing about how wicked she is and the concept of forbidden love between siblings. Suzuhiko asks her to get closer in a lascivious manner. She doesn't move. So he comes closer himself, grabs her right hand, and lifts her up from the chair. And then His face approached me, until the breath of two people could meet each other. Suzuhiko's eyes, hands, and body all revealed the desire to hold me firmly. I was constrained by tension and some unspeakable emotions. My body went stiff.
Even just having one eye is fine.
Suzuhiko put his lips on my eye patch. I felt the touch through the eye patch and tried to escape, but because my wrist was caught, I couldn't move. Suzuhiko let his hand slide to the root of my right hand with a posture similar to a lizard crawling to the ground. Then that hand was promptly crushed. I saw the signal transmitter falling to the ground, with parts such as hydraulic hoses and gears.
They're deliberately not catching you.
He slammed the signal transmitter.
Shinobu, your movements are as clear as day to the Who. It must be really hard to be you.
They expected I would meet Byakuya.
You came to Prague without hesitation after hearing the broadcast of Byakuya Togami. You must know what you have in mind. That Byakuya Togami is in Prague?
I didn't say anything. Suzuhiko tells her not to make that face, and reminds her that both of them are now companions. Shinobu wonders that since there is a signal transmitter, if Kazuya was aware of her and Suzuhiko's relationship. After thinking about how Kaspar Hauser, who was 16, who was just released from jail, would have been equally as confused as she was, she is then reassured by Suzuhiko. After being reminded of her previous apathetic attitude by Suzuhiko, he says not to worry as he will help her find a solution. After all, she is a princess. He then says that he will help her find Byakuya, but Shinobu is worried that he might be lying to her in order to find Byakuya and killed him, since he was apparently hired to do that. On the other hand, he had many opportunities to kill him, but didn't take them. So Shinobu wonders if the hitman contract was actually a lie, and Suzuhiko says that he was lying about that and all of his actions were made out of free will. Suzuhiko then asks her if she wants to save him just because she needs to write his biography. I won't write anything anymore. She ponders giving up the super high school level secretary title, now that she doesn't have Borgs anymore. But she's finally feeling free. She will save Byakuya as a sister, not as a secretary. Now she can feel hope and despair. She has desires and dreams. She's not a writing machine anymore. That is why she can't write his biography anymore. Suzuhiko might be thinking about doing whatever he wants to his sister, but she won't waver anymore. However, he seems to agree that what she is saying, and thinks it's great she's trying to find her own self. So Suzuhiko decides that in order to annoy Kazuya-san, he will call off the hit on Byakuya. There was a sound from outside. Kazuya must be here. I was nervous, and Suzuhiko was still sitting on the bed with a calm and unpredictable appearance. I squeezed my remaining hand into a fist, and waited for the moment when my brother came up to the second floor. However, it was not Kazuya, but a blast from an explosion. That which came from the first floor, alongside the smell, also came from the stairs.
What a beautiful explosion C4 has!
C4?
That's it!
Suzuhiko showed me what he had been keeping in his mouth.
This is a C4 bomb. A soft plastic bomb that can change shape in any way. You've been eating a bomb? Oh, as long as it doesn't detonate, it's fine. It's ordinary glycerin, but isn't exactly good for the body either. Well, I don't know if my brother's still alive, but it's hard to imagine a person being pulverized by a bomb and still being alive.
Oh, but I am still alive, said Kazuya, walking into the room with 3 UN soldiers. All 4 looked quite angry and were glaring at Suzuhiko. You were trying to kill me?
How could I kill my lovely brother? It was just a joke. Just like a cat tormenting a bug.
Isn't that trying to kill me?
Don't mention the small stuff. Since you're all still alive, it's no problem.
This is the way of communication between Otsuki and Kazuya. Suzuhiko always does this when he is associated with someone he likes. He can only maintain the connection with others through destruction. He who feels that certain element is lacking in nature had once destroyed me. He can only use this method of insulting to express his affection for me. Of course, my body and mind can't bear it. After a long period of time, the three of us have finally reunited again. However, Suzuhiko not only did not repent, but even intensified his destruction. He knows that his world tends to collapse, and he is self-sufficient. Yet, he is still setting up bombs everywhere. What's going on with this guy? Self-centered. Such a creepy word came to my mind. Kazuya refuses to accept Suzuhiko's word that the hitman wanted to reconcile with him, and turns to Shinobu, who can't look at his gaze. To which Suzuhiko taunts Kazuya over everyone hating him. "Sister, come to me. Don't be with that guy. He'll only make you worse off," begged Kazuya. However, at that moment, Kazuya became all too aware of the scene he's in, and asked if the two of them are in a relationship. Suzuhiko comments that he and Shinobu have love. They are together. Needless to say, Kazuya begins to freak out. No. Kazuya began to move his head violently. "No, what is this? My sister should be with me. Only I can make my sister happy, so that my sister can become a princess." A princess? Shinobu notes that's the second time that this word's come up. "Yes, because I will become a prince soon."
Aw, come on sis, don't listen to him.
Suzuhiko said straightforwardly.
And Kazuya, let me have her, and let me chase after Byakuya. I'll help you find him.
"Shut up and give me my sister."
What if I don't want her?
"Then I will kill you." Then a lightsaber appeared on Kazuya's right hand. The three UN soldiers also quickly raised their guns. The room was full of murderous intentions. Kazuya dropped what he was holding and pointed to Suzuhiko with his sword.
Tell me, Kazuya, what is the principle of your sword?
Suzuhiko didn't seem interested in the murderousness that was pointed towards him, but he was instead looking at Kazuya's lightsaber. "You don't have to know."
Well, in any case, it must have a reason rooted in common sense. It must be something logical, not magical power, or your talented potential that only shows itself in a critical moment.
"No matter how you plan to get to the bottom of it, my talent will not disappear."
Do you want to talk to me about it? Can you talk to the super high school level hitman about this?
"I am also talented. The sword you see now is my talent."
Listen well, Kazuya. There are only a few things that can happen in this world. No matter how powerful a person is, he can't change the nature of thermodynamics, or go beyond the scope of physics. You know what I'm saying, right? In a place where there is just no way to make a lightsaber appear from nothing, this talent does not exist. Just like a person, no matter how talented, cannot fly in the sky, or use shakuchi. Shakuchi? The word caused a flashback in my mind, but Suzuhiko had suddenly stood up from the bed, and now I can't think about it. With Kazuya's lightsaber and the soldiers' guns pointed at us, the situation was critical. However... Shinobu! Water release jutsu!
The moment Suzuhiko yelled, the room was full of smoke. But it was not the water-releasing technique at all. The classic blinding method with smoke bombs achieved outstanding results, and they couldn't see us.
Let's go on a date.
In this gap, Suzuhiko lifted me up and jumped out of the window. Part 4. Suzuhiko and Shinobu get in the old Skoda car and start driving through Prague. Several cars driven by UN soldiers try to stop them, but Suzuhiko, who is driving, throws knives at the drivers, killing them. Shinobu feels bad for them, saying that they were killed just because they were doing their job. As they pass by the Vltava River, Shinobu begins to feel uneasy because they were going farther away from Byakuya. Suzuhiko, however, is laughing away and is just itching for a chance to be able to kill every soldier the UN has and elope with her. Shinobu asks what his deal is, but Suzuhiko says not to think about it and not to pay too much attention towards his purpose.
Accept the things in front of us.
He believes it's okay to simply take what's happening at face value and be ignorant. Needless to say, Shinobu is still very confused. Suzuhiko goes on to say his place is looking after his brothers and sister. And of course, with Kazuya, he can't say for certain how attached he is to him. Shinobu likewise is still wondering what the hell he's talking about, but tries to steer things along by telling him he really shouldn't be so persistent when trying for her. Something of which even Suzuhiko agrees, since he claims he needs at least a minimum of boundaries to control himself. As they drive past, Suzuhiko points out towards the hill where they escaped from the UN, thus prompting a debate as to why soldiers come after them even when they know it'll just lead to their deaths. Why? Because it's their work. Something that Shinobu sums up best. Work is like a person's identity. Suzuhiko wonders if wanting to dominate the world is also part of the Despair High School's plan. He believes their goal of spreading despair is strange, since he finds conquering the world boring, and wonders how anyone can take something like that so seriously.
Especially after knowing about Dr. Lecter and the Joker, who can really do what they want to conquer the world.
Shinobu chimes in, the difference between her and them is that it boils down to their chances in achieving it. Maybe it's because that you have experienced a lot of things, but the first time you come in contact with the concept of conquering the world, I think that should feel very fresh, she says. The youth weren't politically aligned to either the far left or the far right. This was not the case until now. Ishikawa Tochigi was eye-catching by the Meiji government. Yukio Mishima was arbitrarily arrested in the city, and Takahashi Ichiro was arrested for preparing a murder weapon. In my eyes, I only saw myself in the world, and shield against all kinds of problems around me. From the perspective of self-realization, this method works very well because it can make a fool even if one is connected with the world. It can even make a person remain ignorant to conquests against the world. Suzuhiko backs this and wonders if Despair High School is thinking they can add something new to the concept of world domination. The Despairs believe that their attempt at world conquest is a good thing. Would she believe that their actions are related to their sense of existence? Shinobu is confused. Obviously their attempt at world domination is related to their existence value. However, Suzuhiko believes that as long as you are alive, your life will have value, and that it is not necessary to give yourself a purpose. Suzuhiko then also says another incest joke, which has been removed from the summary for your viewing pleasure. A person like me who is alive has enough value by being alive. Shinobu remembers Byakuya and how the truth is the same for him. He doesn't need to be involved in the story, or fight like some action hero just to have worth. He just needs to be himself to form Byakuya Togami. For Suzuhiko, life is interesting as long as he is alive, and there's no need to think about anything at all, especially since he is the former Super High School level hitman. He is caged by that talent, and he can't do anything else. He can't be a fisherman, cartoonist, motorcyclist, or even a nutritionist. All he can do is kill.
Don't you think that's cruel? But forget it. You probably wouldn't understand. After all, you gave up on your Super High School level secretary talent. The infinite future is waiting for you.
Shinobu mutters that she was enjoying life as a secretary, to which Suzuhiko points out that both being tied down by their talent and finding happiness because of it are mutual. Shinobu sums it up to this. The situation is like how young people are eager to not take the common path that adults take. However, that being said, the path they take is a path in itself. Yes, yet they are still happy with it, since even that is a type of freedom. Shinobu realizes she's just been following another routine akin to the quote from Ibsen's A Dollhouse. I want to abandon this, abandon that, live alone. I am not a doll. She's been following a concept that had been in place for more than 100 years. As she comes to terms with this, she realizes that this was what Suzuhiko was meaning about life bound by talent.
People want to be more free and to fly higher,
Suzuhiko continued to say, unlike his usual style.
Togamis are also good brothers, or killers. To throw all these insignificant things aside and enjoy a completely different life. Don't you think we have this freedom?
Her thoughts are suddenly stopped by when an object falls from the sky. It's easy to avoid, but to do that, Suzuhiko needs to lead the car to another street. Another object falls, and he is forced to change direction again. Shinobu knows they are leading them somewhere, and Suzuhiko knows it as well. But he doesn't seem worried, considering how much he is laughing. He continues driving until he gets to a dead end. A girl wearing a rustic uniform and round glasses is staring there. She is the super high school level literary girl, Toko Fukawa. Even though the car is getting closer and closer at high speed, she isn't moving. Suzuhiko then stepped on the gas even more and decided to kill her. When the car was about to hit her, she jumped really high, avoiding the car, which braked and turned around in order to avoid hitting the wall. Shinobu gets out of the car, feeling nauseous for the sudden maneuver, and finds Toko standing in front of her with a pair of scissors in each hand.
You called for me?
Toko slowly raised her head,
So I shall appear!
red eyes sparkling.
Ding ding ding!
She shouted out. Part 5. Both eyes were bloodshot. A long tongue like a snake stuck out of her mouth, giggling and laughing loudly while waving scissors in both hands. This person seemed to be Toko Fukawa, but it wasn't. What's going on here? I didn't know such a person. The super high school level literary girl, the one known as Toko Fukawa, would never do this kind of thing. At the same time, Suzuhiko was excited for some silly reason. What came out of his mouth were,
It's scissors! Her weapon is scissors! Wow, it's great!
it seemed that there was only one normal person here. Toko jumped quite high and landed on the car.
Ding ding ding! I'm the super high school level murderer! Genocider Sho!
Shinobu tries to talk to her, namely by using the name of Toko Fukawa, but Sho is having none of it and demands to be called Genocider Sho. Shinobu complies and asks what she's doing here. Sho says she's under orders from Byakuya Togami, while to be specific, she's just following orders from a piece of paper he wrote. When he asked about his location, she turns hostile and shoots it right back if they know where he is. She also notices Suzuhiko's rising bloodlust. Suzuhiko comments that it's rather unexpected for such a famous serial killer to be a liberal arts girl, and Sho comments he must be another super high school level killer type like her. With that being said, talk is cheap to her, and they both start fighting. They are so quick and striking so hard that Shinobu finds it hard to keep up with them. Sho moves and strikes with her scissors, and Suzuhiko blocks and counters each time at an incredible speed. Both of them share a laugh at how thrilling the fight is, being content to be locked in such an epic battle. Sho remarks that Byakuya is free to move to a certain extent, and that they are just pawns in this game. Shinobu is glad to hear Byakuya is okay, when suddenly Kazuya appears and asks what is going on. Hope's Peak reinforcements, is all Shinobu could say. Kazuya wishes that they would both take each other out, before asking if he was talking too much. Shinobu promptly points out how he was nearly killed by a bomb moments before, isn't it obvious? Kazuya somehow takes this as her being good to him, before asking if Suzuhiko looked a little tired. After a while, Genocider Sho hits Suzuhiko really hard, making him fall to the ground. Genocider and him banter about how he's gotten old, and in the midst of all their song referencing and frenemy talk, Shinobu realizes that Suzuhiko was no longer the invincible, murderous, psychopathic brother that he was 4 years ago. That age was catching up to him. Admittedly, she was somewhat saddened by this. Suzuhiko talks about growth and how he accepted the way he has grown, but Sho is not having the same thoughts. She jumps up and prepares to finish Suzuhiko off, but Kazuya interrupts and saves Suzuhiko with his lightsaber. Brother, what are you doing? A high school girl has spent so much time on you. You don't usually do this. Kazuya was very unpleasantly narrowing his eyes and glanced at the reorganization of the situation.
Oh, don't mind it, Kazuya. I just wanted to try it once.
What?
A character that's been very powerful before will, once a new character appears, immediately become a jobber. I wanted to try that, to develop the plot.
You're still playing around. Suzuhiko remarks that an adult can have just as much imagination as a kid does, and asks why Kazuya saved him, to which he says that he didn't want to see him so weak. Genocider is gushing over the appearance of Kazuya, though she points out it seems as though he's ripping off Byakuya. Kazuya asserts that he is not ripping off Byakuya, and that he is Byakuya. Needless to say, Genocider does not take too kindly to that, and the fight goes into a 2-on-1. During it, Genocider takes note of Kazuya's saber and wonders if he got permission from George Lucas to use it, or to be accurate, wonder what the heck is it. Kazuya claims it's his talent, but Sho has none of it and makes fun of him further.
I sentence you to death for copyright infringement,
says Genocider Sho towards Kazuya. Still, with a combination of both Suzuhiko and Kazuya, she is eventually backed into a corner. However, just before they can kill her, a gunshot rings out. Part 6. The world was frozen. My intention here isn't to express any cheap effect, but everything really stopped moving. My mouth was wide open like an idiot. Both Genocider Sho and Kazuya stood still. In front of Kazuya, Suzuhiko stood with open arms as the red blood on his chest slowly dripped down. The flow of time started again. Then the sound of total awkwardness. The sound of the knife falling from the hand of Suzuhiko. Suzuhiko's eyes flew wide open. He moved his hand to his chest as if he was in slow motion. He looked at the blood on his hand, whispered, "What is this?" and then fell down. The world was back to normal. "Brother!" The sword disappeared from the hands of Kazuya. He wanted to lift our fallen brother from off the ground, but Suzuhiko groaned in the throat and pushed him away. During this trip, I have seen countless deaths all the way, so I can see that the former super high school level hitman, Suzuhiko Otsuki, my brother, had been fatally wounded. No. Fell. False. Fake. My brother is going to die? My brother ruled over me, even if he wasn't there. But now the brother who has been constantly putting pressure on me, he was going to die? How could this happen? How can I believe this kind of thing? In the face of this nightmare, I was dizzy. Genocider Sho is disappointed with this ending and says it's a good thing that the killer is hiding in the car's trunk, or she would have already killed them. She points towards the old Skoda car. Kazuya looks at the car and sees that the trunk is slightly open, and a gun's barrel is poking out. The reaction of Kazuya was exceptionally rapid. Before the second bullet was fired from the muzzle, he had rushed up to it with his cane and stabbed the car's trunk. Not once or twice, but countless times. Countless times, and then some. Blood was sprayed from the gap in the trunk. However, Kazuya seemed to be unsatisfied. He dragged out the stab-riddled Yuika Ketoin from the trunk and cut her head like a clumsy executioner. After her head was separated from her body, the octopus on her head finally moved, but Kazuya stabbed it without mercy. The octopus spat out a little ink and died. Kazuya returns to Suzuhiko's side, and is begging for the hitman to stay with him. Suzuhiko, possibly due to the blood entering his trachea, refuses to speak up, something that Shinobu interprets as him not wanting to sound weak or shameful in his final moments. Brother. As Shinobu feels tears coming from her left eye, Kazuya keeps calling for Suzuhiko's name. Things become clear to Shinobu, namely about Suzuhiko Otsuki's identity. Big Brother Minoru. This sentence caused the fanciful armour of the imaginary skin to crack, and the truth hidden inside was smashed out. Yes, the name of this person was not Suzuhiko Otsuki. The name of the one who greeted me into their home and was kicked out of said home was not Suzuhiko Otsuki. This is Minoru Oe. That is the truth. Maybe it's because I don't have Borgs, so the memory is easier to wake up. At the place that my brother is going to die, I finally remembered the truth. I wanted to finally say a few words to him, so I built up the courage to lift my eyes, but my brother had already died. I truly think that my youth is now over. Achoo! I heard an untimely sneeze. Looking back, Toko was now the normal girl I'd known her as, and her eyes returned to her usual dark colour. The familiar, nervous face of hers shouted, How can this be happening? Oh, I can't believe she came out again. She seemed to have been too flustered and did not notice us, so she began to climb the walls of the alley. I took a deep breath, took the smell of my brother's blood into my body, and out again. After repeating this process several times, I recovered and calmed down, so I stood and started to move. It didn't make sense to stay in this hell again. No, I want to avoid making a more cruel hell. I am moving forward. Sister. Kazuya chased behind me with his cane. I have to go. Byakuya-sama is waiting for me, Shinobu says, and to this, Kazuya questions if she cared about Suzuhiko. She said that she did love him, or to be specific, she had to love him. If she didn't, there was no way she could have accepted the violent love he brought. In a way, this love for him is also a confirmation that C existed, and did have a past, even if the feeling was quite negative, and only for self-defense. She knows it was wrong, but it was literally the only thing she had left. Without that, who even is she? But sister, don't you want to shed tears for him? Asked Kazuya, to which Shinobu refused. I won't shed tears for him. This is the only revenge I can get. Kazuya asks if he can come with her, but Shinobu says that there is something that has to be done alone. I don't want to be Cinderella. I stopped. I'm not a princess. I'm tired of this. Kazuya, you and your brother want to keep me locked up in a castle, but I'm not happy at all. I also have my own way to go. Kazuya begs for her to take him with her. He wants to reach a conclusion with Byakuya. Shinobu concludes that even after all this time, even after taking a new identity and becoming a high-ranking WHO member, Kazuya still can't shake ties with the Togami family. Ever since the Kuchinashi village fire and the biggest worst incident in the history of the Togami family, his future was burnt to a crisp, and thus he's been obsessed with defeating and becoming Byakuya Togami. Even now, he's still chasing him. It's the same with her. Even without Borgs and Journey Under the Midnight Sun, she's just as obsessed with finding Byakuya Togami. Even after 4 years have passed, in the end, I'm still a child of the Togamis. Yeah, in order to get rid of the gravitational pull of the Togamis, maybe we really need to face the Togamis. Sister, where is Byakuya? Prague Castle. What? How was that possible? It's no wonder that Kazuya is so shocked. Prague Castle is not only a representative building of the Czech Republic, but also the seat of the presidential palace. Byakuya Togami, who attempted to conquer the world, is hidden inside the central institutions operating the entire Czech Republic. This is too far from common sense. However, when I heard the broadcast, I firmly believed Byakuya must be in Prague Castle. Byakuya-sama is like reminding me that he said, a place that matches me, and there is no place in the Czech Republic except Prague Castle. There is no other choice. Byakuya-sama managed to escape the eyes and the ears of the government, the police, and the UN army. He sneaked into the city, and he was waiting for me there. This is definitely the case. If you want to enter Prague Castle, I think you will definitely need me, Kazuya said. I am now a WHO official. No one would dare to not listen to my words and check. Then when we go in, will you blockade the castle? Do not let anyone come in. I know. Well, let's go. Yes. I'll stake the Togami name on it. Prague Castle. I went to that castle to escape my own castle. Chapter 14. End. And with that, the asshole everyone loves to hate and hates to love, Suzuhiko, has been killed off. Anyway, here are the translation notes. The original joke that Suzuhiko mentioned was, we played Uno, not Uso. Uso is Japanese for lie. Prague is also called the City of 100 Spires, based on a count by 19th century mathematician Bernard Bolzano. Today's count is estimated by the Prague Information Service at 500. The City with Fingers of Rain. Prague with Fingers of Rain is a book written by Vítězslav Nezval in 1936, showing off the many sides of life in Prague, mixing real and surreal. The Nevzal evokes life's contradictoriness in series of psalm-like poems of puzzled love and generous humanity. The hometown of medieval rock refers to the buskers of the city playing a unique genre of music to collect money. The spells carved on the forehead of golems. The most famous golem narrative involves Judalo ben Bezalel, the late 16th century rabbi of Prague, also known as the Maharal, who reportedly created golem out of clay from the banks of the Vltava River and brought it to life through rituals and Hebrew incantations to defend Prague ghetto from anti-Semitic attacks and pogroms. Depending on the version of the legend, the Jews in Prague were either to be expelled or killed under the rule of Rudolf II, the Holy Roman Emperor. The story of the Headless Templar. According to the legend, a headless knight Templar rides a magnificent white horse, carrying his own head. He appears on the cobbles of Liliova Street between midnight and 1 o'clock. His ghost is doomed to roam the city until someone is brave enough to stab the knight through the heart with his own sword. Some claim to have seen the ghost, and some even claimed the horse kicked them. The legend of the sword hidden at the pier is referring to the legend of Brunsvik's sword. Brunsvik was an adventurer who came across a magic sword, who would kill at just the command of the user. It is a story of tragedy, with the sword ending up hidden near the Charles Bridge in Prague. The sound of the military boots that once stepped on the cobblestone is referring to the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia. The aftertaste of the Baroque dream is referring to the type of architecture used commonly throughout Prague's beautifully designed cities. Pravda Vitezi means truth prevails. It is the national motto of the Czech Republic. Strahov Monastery is a pre-Monastratensian abbey founded in 1143 by JinJoJess, Bishop John of Prague, and Vladislaus II, Duke of Bohemia. It is located in Strahov, Prague, Czech Republic. The Hunger Wall is a medieval defensive wall on the lesser town of Prague, today's Czech Republic. It was built on the Petrin Hill between 1360 and 1362 by order of Charles IV. Marl from quarries on Petrin Hill was used as construction material. The purpose of the construction was to strengthen the fortifications of Prague Castle and Mala Strana against any attack from the west or south. Originally the wall was 4 to 4.5 metres high and 1.8 metres wide, and was equipped with battlements and probably 8 bastions. Caspar Hauser, 29th September 1812 to 17th December 1833, was a German youth who claimed to have grown up in the total isolation of a darkened cell. Hauser's claims that his subsequent death by stabbing sparked much debate and controversy. Theories propounded at the time linked him with the Grand Ducal House of Baden and proposed his birth had been hidden as part of royal intrigue. These opinions in many ways have been documented by later investigation, and many argued during and after Hauser's life that he was most likely a fraud. The water-release jutsu is a reference to Naruto. Henrik Johan Ibsen was a Norwegian playwright and theatre director. As one of the founders of modernism in theatre, Ibsen is often referred to as the father of realism, and one of the most influential playwrights of his time. He is the most frequently performed dramatist in the world after Shakespeare, and A Doll's House was the world's most performed play in 2006. Ibsen's early poetic and cinematic play, Peer Gynt, has strong surreal elements. After Peer Gynt, Ibsen abandoned verse and wrote in realistic prose. Several of his later dramas were considered scandalous to many of his era, when European theatre was expected to model strict morals of family life and propriety. Ibsen's later work examined the realities that lay behind the facades, revealing much that was disquieting to a number of his contemporaries. He had a critical eye and conducted a free inquiry into the conditions of life and issues of morality. In many critics' estimates, The Wild Duck and Rosmersholm are vying with each other as rivals for the top place among Ibsen's works. Ibsen himself regarded Emperor and Galilean as his masterpiece. A Doll's House is a 3-act play written by Norway's Henrik Ibsen. It premiered at the Royal Theatre in Copenhagen, Denmark on 21st September 1879, having been published earlier that month. The play is set in Norwegian town circa 1879. The play is significant for the way it deals with the fate of a married woman, who at the time in Norway lacked reasonable opportunities for self-fulfillment in a male-dominated world, despite the fact that Ibsen denies it was intent to write a feminist play. It aroused a great sensation at the time and caused a storm of outrage controversy that went beyond the theatre to the world newspapers and society. In 2006, the centennial of Ibsen's death, A Doll's House held the distinction of being the world's most performed play that year. UNESCO had inscribed Ibsen's autographed manuscripts of A Doll's House on the memory of the World Register in 2001, in recognition of the historical value. The ding 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 said by Genocider was apparently a reference to something, but I couldn't figure it out. That was just according to some forums online that were talking in Japanese about the series. George Walton Lucas Jr., is an American filmmaker, philanthropist, and entrepreneur. Lucas is best known for creating the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises and founding Lucasfilm, LucasArts, and Industrial Light and Magic. He served as chairman of Lucasfilm before selling it to the Walt Disney Company in 2012, a move that many people regard as very bad. And a lot of the dialogue between Otsuki and Sho was cut down since it was a bunch of songs and references that was just not going to be fun to sift through just for summaries. So if you want to wait for that, wait for a full translation whenever that happens. I'm sure that you're more interested in the plot. And that's it for this episode. We're only looking at maybe 2 or 3 episodes left. How great is that? Coming to the end finally. And then we can work on more DRK. So thank you for everyone so much for watching. Hope you all have a very good day. See you.